Next, we will continue with the Python visual. Python, you know very well, it's very hot skill set. It's an in-demand skill set. So the feature is, you all know it is artificial intelligence. Okay. Hence, it is mandatory that plan for switching over to artificial intelligence at the earlier, okay? Because everything is going to be handled by artificial. You know very well, Chat GPT. With that, it can write the script itself. If you ask him to write a script, it writes a script. It's all possible because of artificial intelligence. Hence, it is important that to learn Python. But anyhow, I will show you how to use the Python visual in Power BI Desktop now. One second, let me just launch the Power BI Desktop. Takes a lot of time. Just wait for a few seconds. So what happened? It takes a lot of time. One second, I just launched it. Yeah, it's still launching it. Let's wait for a few seconds. I'll just close it on my time. But first time, it's always recommended. Once you, as soon as you launch it, you close it. Otherwise, it'll be too slow. My God, it takes a lot of time. So, okay, till it completes, right, till it launches, in the interest of time, let us utilize the time effectively. Ideally, I should have launched it before that because I have continuous meetings. Okay, what we'll do is, in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and continue with the slicer visual. You know what is slicer, right? Slicer is an on-canvas visual filter using which you can enable the report users to apply the filters based on their requirement. For example, a specific user wants to see specific quarter on a specific year. If they want to view the sales performance, or if they wanted to see their campaign performance by region, they can apply the filter based on the values that are available in the slicer. Okay, the slicer enable the users to interact with the report in a very interactive manner. Okay, for that purpose use slicer, and with slicer we can make our report very dynamic rather than sharing the static report. With slicer we can enable our report more dynamic. Imagine that in the past, before the data visualization tools and all came into picture, if the user wants to see a specific report, right, so they need to create multiple reports. Okay, but nowadays you create one report page. In that report page you can embed the slicer. You keep the slicer. In the case of Power BI, you keep this on canvas and then enable the user to apply the filters, so that in a single report page itself they can see the different flavors of report by applying the filters. So that is what the slicer is all about. That's how you can use the slicer. The limitations of slicers are something like, it is you cannot do drill down in the Power BI slicer, and is not provide the support for input fields. You remember in the case of column from examples in Power Query Editor, so you can input the values there. Okay, but in slicer you cannot key in any value, and there is no option that is available to pin your slicer to your dashboard, but you can pin a report file itself as part of your dashboard. In that situation, slicer will also be made available as part of the dashboard. But if you want to pin only a slicer, pin in the sense you want to copy paste the slicer from one report to the dashboard, that is not possible. And also you cannot apply visual level filters using slices in Power BI. So okay, so these are the limitations. Though the limitations are there, but still the advantages outweighs the limitations. Okay, so there are different types of slicers: the text slicer, numeric range slicer, relative date slicer, relative time slicer. And these are all part of your date slicer, the relative thing. Okay, and responsive resizable slicer, it is simply you can we have some property with that, you can enable the slicer as a button kind of slicer. So with that you can resize your slicer. Okay, and the hierarchy slices with multiple fields, that is also possible now. In the past version of the higher Power BI, you cannot you have a hierarchy in your slices, but with the recent version you can have the hierarchy in your slicer itself. Let us explore each and every type of slicer one after the other. The first one is the text slicer, and the numeric slicer and date slicer. Text slicer, what you see, right, as the name suggests, you can have the text value. As the name suggests, numeric and date, these slices will have the respective numeric as well as date values in it. Okay. Okay, so now we will jump in here, and yeah, so now I just it got open. Enable. Since I started talking about now, the slicer will start with the slicer. For example, I just go and click on the slicer visual, and then I'm going to click on some visual here. Okay, the tree map visual. But in this, we have more data. That is the reason I keep using this one, the category and profit by segment. So now we have, listen in this case, I'm going to use a donut chart. And here in this slicer, we'll use the category here. And for example, if I select the furniture visual, if I select the furniture here in the slicer, it applies the filters on the other visuals in this report page. So how do I know that what filter got applied on each visual? By looking at this itself, we can make out. Apart from this, supposing when you use something using the filters pane, you will not be able to see it, right? So for that, for each every on top of each visual, you can find the funnel kind of icon. If you keep the cursor on top of this, you can find the filter which got applied on this visual. In this visual, the furniture filter got applied. In this visual, also the furniture visual got the furniture filter got applied. But in the within this furniture, so what are these? How much sales we generated across the segment? We can see it here. Okay, and okay, so this is a text visual, text slicer. Okay, slicer is also called as a visual. Okay, and here you can see the eraser icon. If you want to clear the filters, you can click on this. Now the nothing has been selected, and if you click on the drop down here, so in the previous version, if you click on it, you can see that one. Now you need to go to the property, and you can go here and see vertical list. If you want to display it on vertical list, you can do it. And if you need to have multiple slices, better you can go for drop down. It saves a lot of space. Instead of vertical, you can use the drop down option. Click on the drop down here, you can see all the thing here. Okay, once you select the you can apply the filter like this, and you can clear this one. But in this case, you can save space, you can reduce the size of the slicer in this case. And the next one is the numeric slicer. So in this case, yeah, you have various options like vertical list and the drop down and the tile. Okay, tile I will show you. In the case of tile, okay, I'll just create another slicer. Can have multiple slicer also. For example, if I drop the country here, so in this case, I'm going to select the slicer settings as style here. So this is called your resizable slicer. Look here, in this case, we discussed about the responsive resizable slicer. Okay, so this is how you can resize it. And you can see the scroll bar. Since we have more countries, and if we reduce the size, with the scroll bar, we can see the rest of the countries here. Okay, you can resize it and then keep it somewhere here. This is your responsive resizable slicer, and this is your text slicer. This is also text slicer, but it's also called as a responsive resizable since we are able to resize it. Okay, and the other type of slicer is numeric slicer. So in this case, for example, you want to see not the list price. Okay, for example, you want to see the sales. So you want to know the sales happened between this range. Okay, by sliding. So by default, in the case of numeric slicer, the slider will option will be there. Okay, the between option is the default one in the case of numeric slicer. But however, you have various options are available: less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. You can use less than or equal to. If you use less than or equal to, in that case the left side one got disabled and right side one will get enabled. Left side less than or equal to, for example, if I want to see 10,000 less than or equal to, that means 10,000 or less than 10,000. Okay, so that is if for example, if you want to see the 12,000 less than or equal to 12,000, so it gives you. So with the slider also you can make it starting from here to here, or you can slide the values. You can use this circle to slide towards the left side and right side to reduce or increase the values, increase the range. Okay, less than or equal to, greater than. The case of greater than or equal to, this one will get disabled and the value will get here, the value will get appeared. Okay, so obviously if you specify 1,000 here, greater than or equal to 1,000 and above, whatever is there, you display it. For example, if I select a greater than or equal to, the this one got disabled and only this one, right, this side got highlighted. And if I say 10,000, that means 10,000 and above. Okay, if you wanted to, select any range, it could be less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or it can be, between any range, right? So that is the reason why they've given the between. You can use any range here with the between, between this date and between, in this two category, and in specific country, how much sales we made. Okay, you can apply multiple filters with the help of more than one slicer, and you can clear this one with the eraser icon. And you have the search option is available. Supposing I just convert this to the normal thing, vertical list. So in this case, it is a vertical list. It's a text slicer, but very difficult to scroll down and see here, right? So what you do is you can click on the three dot, the ellipses, and you can click on the search here. Okay, enable the search option. For example, if you want to search the United States, you just type United. You can see all the countries starts with United here. You can select whatever that you wanted. So the search option is also available in the case of text slicer, and the rest of them are pretty straightforward, right? Show as a table, all this you can, but the rest of the options that you will find it almost all the visuals. And the search option, you can use it if you want it, especially in the case of vertical list, because the list is too long. So in that case, you will not find time to scroll down and all, right? You can use search icon. Okay, and in the case of numeric slicer, these are the options. The between, drop down. See, the list and drop down, vertical list tile drop down is common to all the slicer. Okay, the between, less than or greater than or equal to, is specific to the numeric slicer. Okay, and the next one is the date slicer. I'm going to click on another slicer, and here I just put the order date. Order date is not the correct one, not in the date format. Hence, what I do is I just put here the year also some. Okay, for the sake of example, I'm going to the ship date because it's already in the date format. Even in the case of ship date format, we can see that between option, the default option is between. Numeric and date slicer, the between option is there. Okay, which means we can use this slider to slide towards the left side and right side to choose the specific during, specific dates or specific values. You can use the slider. This is the default one. But unlike the numeric slicer, okay, here you can see the before, after, relative date, relative time. So this is what I mentioned here, the relative time and relative date. So if you use the relative date, what happens here? if you want to, this, this is the kind of option that is available in the case of relative date. Last 10 days, next 10 days, this date, right, this 10 days, something here you can choose up to the day level. You can choose it last 10 days if you want to see it, last 10 days. Okay, and that is the 2023, 2023 we don't have any data yet. Here, yeah, likewise, we can specify the last 10 years. Okay, last 10 years. Last 5 years. Last 5 years, you don't have data. Yeah, last 10 years. Okay, something like that. Okay, you have last next to this. Okay, or this year. Okay, this. Um, in the case of this year, but here it got disabled. You cannot enter anything. Okay, this year or this month, this week, that is possible. But first of all, this year we don't have the data. Okay, and that's the reason why it is not displaying. I'm going to clear this one. So the like all the slicer, all the type of slices have vertical and drop down and tile options are available. Even in this case, you have tile option is available. But when you compare the numeric slicer with the date slicer, the between option is the default option. With that, you can slide the values towards the left or right side to choose the range of values. And apart from this, you have the relative date. With that, you can check last 10 days or last the granularity level available at the days level. So last 10 years, last quarter, a month, a date. So here you can see the days, yeah, days, weeks, months, quarter is not available. Yeah, this much is available. Okay, and next also you can select it here. This is what your relative date, and relative time is also available. In the case of manufacturing unit, they want to check last 2 hours what is the productivity, right? So in that kind of situation, the relative time is helpful. And if you see here, if you see minutes, hours, the granularity level is at the minutes. Okay, hours, minutes is also available. Relative time, as the name suggests, you can apply the filter at the minutes and hours also. And relative date is also available, right? With relative date, you can we can apply the filter for the last 10 days or something like that. So rest of them are same, right? So that's all, not much difference. Hope you understood what is slicer visual is all about, and what is the difference between all these slices. So all these slices, we have the eraser icon to clear the slices. And but the disadvantages, you cannot use hierarchy drill down. You cannot do it, and you cannot use measure as part of your slicer. But hierarchy is possible. Like I said, look here in this case, this is my category. uh, okay, I just select this one. In this case, I just drop the subcategory also here. And if you do it here, if you see here furniture, next to that you can see the drop down here. Click on this. You can see that in furniture these are the things are there. And if you want to see only the in the furniture chairs and tables, okay, only for example you want to see only chairs and tables, you can select it. But if you want to multi-select the values, you need to hold the control key and then you need to select it. For that, you have an option here in the format section, selection, multi-select with control. You toggle this off so that you don't have to hold the control key. Simply you can click on. Okay, that is the option that is available. You need to remember it. And show select all. This is another option. Okay, and for example, if you click on here and you just apply select all everything. Okay, for example, in this kind of hierarchy thing, you just selected this one and then you just visualized, and then later on you want to view all the things. Okay, select all. Okay, so in that kind of situation, the select all feature is also available, and search also available. And we have the single select option is also available. There are some cases the single select, the radio button. For example, I have a column called sex. The sex I have male or female only. So in that kind of situation, here I don't have sex column. So right, in that case, either you should be allowed to select male or female. For example, if I select this one and if I go here and select settings, and if you see here the slicer, it is single select on. If I do it, look here, in this case, at a time you can select only one value. You cannot select more than one value. So what kind of scenario we can use it? Let's say male or female. At a time you can select woman. You cannot select male and female both. You can do it, but it will show everything. You don't want to see everything. You want to see only the male's performance, sales performance, male population's amount spent on my retail chains, female population, how much money they spent on my retail chains. If you want to know that, in that kind of situation, if you want to restrict the users to view at a time only one, sorry, at a time apply only one value in the slicer, that kind of situation you can use it. Okay, but for the time for this it is not applicable. Hence, I have toggled this off. Now we can see the checkbox. With the checkbox, we can select more than one value. That is pretty much about slicer visual. What to summarize with the slicer, you can yeah. So the slicer is basically an alternative way in which you can filter your data. So it provides the or it enables the reporting users with an interactive way to sort and filter reports. Uh, okay, so that's how they can do it. It's essentially an alternative way in which you can filter your data. That's all. Okay. So this is what your slicer is. As part of this, we discussed about the different types of slicer: text slicer, numeric slicer, date slicer, and the responsive resizable slicer. With text slicer itself, we explored various options, and each and every slicer also we explored various options.